It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
And time is 6:06. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Friday. Did you make it? I hope you made it. Yeah, glad you made it.
Today's show is sponsored by Dissolving Underwear. Because who wants to wear wet undies anyway?
I just don't wear them at all. I think that's a better way to... Anyway.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, this is really stupid. There's the ridiculously large television that they put in my studio here. And I'm looking over at it right now, and it's Minneapolis television station is being featured right now. And the crayon below there says, "Snow strikes in spring." And they have reporters out on the street, and they're showing weather people, my God, look at the snow, and snow strikes in spring. Yeah, and how is this a big surprise, especially for a place like Minneapolis? I guess local TV stations need something to talk about, but snow strikes in spring. And they bring out the whole crew to cover snow coming in springtime. That's not a big deal. That's typical. Okay, I can't wait till I get Don Day on at 7:45 to talk about. That's just going to be hysterical. On that note, I decided to start this morning with something that I think you're just going to love from the End Times Cult of Climate Change.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
Yeah, I read this morning, and it has really been sort of grinding on me all morning long. So I thought, well, what the hell? I'm just going to go ahead and start with this. And I might bring this up to the crowd that joins us later in the morning. This is a magazine-style newspaper that comes out of Harvard University. It's called the Harvard Crimson, right? And their picture for this shows the sun. It's a cartoonish-looking one, right? And the sun is shooting some rays at the earth, and the earth has a Band-Aid around the middle. You can see where they're going with this, right? Headline: is it time to consider dimming the sun? Harvard geoengineering research program studies a climate intervention strategy that sounds straight out of a science fiction novel. In the past, scientists and politicians have written off solar geoengineering as too risky, even to study it. But as the planet approaches dangerous levels of warming, which is not happening, well, this might be about to change. So, now, hang on, because I've been thinking about this for a good part of the morning as I've been working on other things. So, I got a great ending to this. Story says, walking past Oxford Street, nondescript brick laboratories, you'd never suspect that inside one Harvard scientist or research technology that could radically alter climate in our lifetime. Solar geoengineering, an effort to dim the sun. This is honestly, people like this need to be fired from their job. The chemistry is powerful. What they want to do is put a few grams of sulfate in the stratosphere to offset warming. So we've heard before that they want to put maybe something out in space between us and the sun that would dim the sun. These guys want to put something up into the atmosphere that would dim the sun. For all its potency, the story says, geoengineering cannot serve as a replacement for cutting CO2 emissions, which don't need to be cut. Those CO2 emissions need to be increased. Scientists working on it, sometimes the engineering drawing, they talk about the volcanic eruption in 1815 that actually caused the Tambora eruption that blocked out some of the sun's rays and caused a winter that went for the whole year. I mean, we never really had a summer after that. So this is what they're thinking. What if we just put some stuff in the atmosphere and that can dim the sun? What if that would work instead? All right, pause. Back up. Here's what I've been thinking about as I've been reading this all morning long. Well, thinking about it. Again, whoever's working on this at Harvard University, can we please fire them? They're too stupid to be there. All right. First thing that that plants need. See, we need plants to live. And plants are not just bushes and trees. Things that we call plant life exist in all sorts of different forms. Not just on the surface, but underneath the surface and in the oceans. Okay, now, in order for plants to exist, there's several things they need. Water's one of them, of course. Two other things that they need, and they need more than these, but just to name two others, sunlight and CO2. Now, it's been discussed many times in this program. The planet has been greening. As the CO2 level is increasing, which mostly is not because of humans. We're not the cause of the huge rise in CO2, although we have contributed some. It's mostly just because of what nature is doing. Okay. The increase in CO2, though, and we're helping, is greening the planet. Even a NASA study shows that. We are greening the planet. More CO2 means healthier plant life. It's basically airborne fertilizer. But they want to cut back on CO2 levels. They want to sequester it under the ground. The governor wants in Wyoming a big plant that'll just suck CO2 out of the air. They want to lower the level of CO2, which would make for fewer plants and less healthy plants. But then also, as you know, in order to survive, plants need sunlight. And if we dim the sun, for those of you who have kept plants at home, you know that plants have to have a certain amount of sunlight. Depends on the plant as to how much sunlight they need. Some plants have the time that they have grown into what they are today, changed over time. Some plants are used to living in shaded areas because they're shaded by other bigger trees and bushes, right? Other plants need direct sunlight. But for those plants who really do need the direct sunlight, go ahead and reduce that sunlight. What happens to them? Yeah, they get sick, don't they? They have problems because they're not getting enough sunlight. Photosynthesis is a big part of how they survive. I don't need to explain this to you. You know this. And those plants that do resist more or live more in the shade, well, they're going to start dying off too because they're still not getting enough now. So two things that plants must have to survive. One, they must have CO2, and a lot of it. And two, they must have sunlight, and a lot of it. And here are these people in Harvard University. Their brilliant plan is to reduce those two things, which would make fewer plants, less healthy plants. And as those plants die off, so does everything else, including us. Oh, these people are just, absolutely brilliant.
Sorry it's so cold in the house, guys. I don't know why. I've barely used any energy, but my electric bill this last month was over $300. It's no worries, dude. I get it. Yeah, I hate it. It makes no sense how all of us are making more than our parents ever did, but are still living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, for real. I barely have enough left for savings. What? You have a savings? Barely. You're saying after all your bills are paid, You have money left over? Again, barely. Okay, no need to brag. You're just casually flexing how rich you are. But I'm not rich. My savings only has $1,000 in it. $1,000? Okay, Bezos. Guys, it's really not that much. Something an out-of-touch rich person would say. Okay, but in all seriousness, how did you manage to have a savings in this economy? I gave up avocado toast. Oh, why did...
He's talking to himself in a padded room, and you could be the voice in his head. Join the conversation on Wake Up Wyoming, 866-97-WOOD.
6:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Quick recap for those who just joined me. I was just reading from the Harvard Crimson. That is a story they wrote about blocking the sun, how some researchers are taking a look at maybe putting particulate matter up into the atmosphere so we don't get as much sunlight to cure global warming. And I was pointing out, among other things that plants need to survive is a lot of CO2 and a lot of sunlight. And so if they cut back on CO2 on the planet and they cut back on the sunlight, most plants will die. A lot will just be a lot weaker. And if they die, we die. Michelle is in Cheyenne. Morning, Michelle.
Oh, my name is Michael.
Oh, Michael, I read that wrong. I'm sorry. Morning, Michael. I'm sorry to change your gender. Can you just go with it?
I'm going to go ahead and tell you what blocking the sun does.
Okay.
Exactly. It's a form of control of food production.
Yeah.
Our sun warms our planet.
Mm-hmm.
If you reduce how much warmth it gets, some plants do not have the warmth of the ground energy to produce. Right? So that basically cuts food production because of the warmth. And not only that, I'm a beekeeper.
Right.
And bees are union workers. And they only work when the sun's open now.
Yeah.
So if there's only a marginal amount of sun, that's less pollination. 1/3 of the food everybody eats in the world is from a honeybee. Mm-hmm. But does the pollination of fetus? If you don't have repollination for seed, you don't have your plant growth. That means you don't have insects. Those insects don't fly over water, and they don't feed the fish.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a whole thing. When you can control the sunlight, you're actually controlling the feeding aspect of how everybody eats.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So only a few are going to be able to eat, because you're only going to be able to afford the food that's going to be processed and made, because it's going to be controlled how it's made. No sunlight, you're going to have more ambient light. That means more electricity.
Yep.
Right? That means all these people from the electricity make more money for producing it. It's an economical windfall for those that are just looking to strike those that can't pay to play.
Okay.
And as we see it around the world, as we regain stuff and take away grain and stuff, there's a lot of countries that aren't getting food now. And we're not even sending food there to help them because they're in deserts and they're in plains that they can't get food. So, yeah, I think when they say they're getting ready to control, like the sunlight for global warming, it's mostly to control food production. That's why you're eliminating the CO2. It's for plant production.
That's
right. How do you control your people? How you feed them?
Yeah.
I just let people know that, and I hope you have a good day.
All right.
And this is what we talk about in beekeeping circles.
All right.
It's about how this is how you're going to control food.
All right. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. It's good to hear someone who's in the business who understands. You have to have CO2, among other things, water, all sorts of other things. And you have to have abundant sunlight. And again, NASA studies show the planet is getting greener, even desert areas. And they say because of increased CO2. So between CO2 and sunlight, this is good if the planet warms. Now, some of the reaction I got from people texting me off of the app, Rhiannon Fort Danger, what's wrong with these people? That sums it up. I-80 John, morning, Glenn. I want some of what the Harvard guys are drinking or smoking or shooting up, whatever you want to do there. Jim in Casper, hey, you sent this, you sent this counterterrorism tactic to be used against Harvard. That's a simple man who's over in Casper. Morning, Glenn, Mr. Glenn. Good morning, Mr. Glenn, he says. Mr. I'm sorry, I'm thrown by that. By the way, you're talking about them blocking the sun. Now we're going to go back to the Simpsons again, because Mr. Burns, the old man that owns the power plant, once he had, he's the guy who owns is it Mr. Burns? Yeah, Mr. Burns owns the power plant. at that once he had a big, and it kind of ends right there. I have to go ahead and hang on while I open up the message, see if I can get the rest of it came through, because it kind of stops. Oh, okay. He owns a power plant. He once had a big old antenna-like thing with a paddle, and it locked the sun, and they had to pay him if they wanted to send back something like, okay, so in other words, he was blocking the sun. The Simpsons were able to see the future. I'll have to watch that episode. But you're saying Mr. Burns was blocking the sun and charging for it? Is that what I'm getting out of there? Okay. That makes, okay, look. The cult of climate change not only is nuts, as Rhiannon is saying, what's wrong with these people? Not only are they nuts, but the cult of climate change are probably about the dumbest people. I don't care if they go to Harvard University. Probably about the dumbest people that I've ever spoken to. And they claim that someone like me or you were anti-science. But wanting to block out the sun and reduce CO2 shows a basic lack of understanding. At its basic core, an understanding of science. They just don't have it. If they understood science, they would want more CO2 and more sunlight. It's as simple as that. Coming up on 6:30, local news update on the weather forecast. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Start your day the right way. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
$6:36 at the time. Let's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, so one more little thing on the cult of climate change, since I was talking about them wanting to reduce our exposure to sunlight and CO2, reduce that, thereby killing plants, which would kill us. Desert tortoises imperiled by solar project, environmentalists say. The desert tortoises, king of the Mojave Desert. I know it's Mojave, but I always get it. See, I'm reading an article that's written in English, but they spell it in the Spanish style. Well, no. If you want to spell it in Spanish, write the whole article in Spanish. This is an English article. So Mojave is Mojave. But anyway, a coalition of environmentalists say one solar project poses an unacceptable threat to the habitat of the iconic animal, the desert tortoise, listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act in a rare move Monday. Environmentalist watchdog Basin and Range joined a writing group to write letters to the Department of Interior and cancel the environmental permitting process of a solar project that's making its way through. This, and it talks about where the project would be. It would occupy about 2,430 acres of public land. The group of scientists and advocates have put out a Change.org petition. So far, they have 790 signatures. They hope to get a whole lot more. We're sending a message from the environmental community to the BLM that we really need to take a step back. Okay, now, you see, I completely... Oh, here we go. Solar company moves tortoises away. Land managers have said the acreage would be fenced off for solar, and they could move the habitat. Well, again, try to do this. It's a double standard. Try to do this for oil or gas or coal, right? No, they wouldn't allow. But I think turnabout's fair play. Considering how much land wind and solar demand, then stuff like this needs to be taken into account. All right, Rhiannon over there in Fort Danger, I'm going to grab your article real quick because this is a good one, and I think I might continue next hour into this. Just to touch on it for some other people to hear. She found an article, Wyoming Squatter Rights and Possession Law. Squatters' rights, also known as adverse possession, refer to the ability for a person to legally gain ownership or other rights to a property they have continuously occupied and maintained without the property owner's permission. The rationale behind the squatters' rights law is that the property owner has neglected their land for a significant time, and another person has maintained or occupied it without objection. Now, what I want to know, does this mean that the person who's squatting on the land doesn't have to pay a mortgage? Because the other person was probably paying off the land. All right, in Wyoming, a squatter can gain ownership of real property through possession if they can occupy the land continuously and exclusively for 10 years. That's quite a long time. The squatter must serve all the requirements during that time. They must demonstrate their use and control as, exclusively living on the land and taking care of it during that entire time, basically. Then they can go ahead, and then it defines what all the words mean throughout this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and if not in the next segment, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it maybe next week, one or the other, because I think squatters' rights is absolutely worth looking at. And my thought was, if I can go, let's say, to the governor's mansion and sneak in and hide in the governor's mansion and just stay there for like a decade, then I can own the governor's mansion, right? I don't know. I haven't looked into the whole story yet. But I didn't know that that was a thing in Wyoming, Rian. So thanks for sending me the story. There are some other stories from other states where, like Florida, is getting rid of a lot of the squatters' rights. And if a homeowner comes home and finds that someone's been living on his property, been living in his house, they can get the police just to throw them out. Florida law is changing on this because squatters were taking advantage. Some people leave the country for a couple of years to go on business somewhere else, and then they come back after being away for 2 or 3 years and find someone's been living in their home, and now they have the right to that house, even though they've never paid for the house. Well, Florida is changing that law, and some other states are looking into it as well because people have been taking advantage of it. And I fully support the idea, if as soon as a homeowner proves that's my house, then the police can go in and just clear them out. 6:42 is the time. This Dawn Day weather forecast has got some changes over the weekend, so pay attention to that.
The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
6:48 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Wayne Gambino is waiting by. Frank, we've talked about this before, but I've got a new batch for you. Some of our favorite Garbage Pail Kids. Remember those?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't really care for them.
Oh, I did.
You know.
Okay. Here's a can of peas, Jolly Mean Giant, and basically he's squishing the peas with his disgusting feet. Not Ritz crackers, but Rat's crackers.
Yeah.
Okay. Captain Crunch, who, by the way, only has one tooth, and is Captain Crud.
Okay.
See,
now I did remember that one.
Yeah, okay. And these are the ones that I really always loved, especially because it grossed out the parents.
Yes.
And the teachers would look at them in class and go, don't put that on your notebook. It's hysterical because it grosses the teacher out. Instead of Band-Aid, it's Band-Ache strips. It strips off the skin when you pull it off. Yeah. And it has a picture of someone's skin getting ripped off. It's gross, yeah. Instead of Chex cereal, it's Bum Check.
There you go. Yeah.
And it shows a spoon with a bunch of really bad checks that are going to bounce at the bank.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This one I never understood. Pupsicola. It's got a puppy on the can.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay. I do like, instead of Morton salt, it's Moron salt. And there's just really a stupid girl out there. Now, Wheaties instead is Weekies.
Weekies. And
the baseball player is getting hit in the gut with a baseball. And it just looks like he's just about to throw up or something like that.
Those were the days.
Oh, my God. What is it? Okay. Instead of minute rice, it's midget rice. And there's a short guy who can barely see over the top of the table. See, these were the days, Frank, when we were kids and stuff like this.
No holds barred.
None whatsoever. And again, at first I didn't want to put these things on my notebook, but then I noticed that it grossed out the teacher.
And that's important.
That is really important.
You have to kind of project that out there and like, you know what, I do have a little bit of power over you, not much.
Just that
but
little
I can
bit.
gross you out.
Where you can disapprove of this, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing.
Okay. So,
nothing.
So it wasn't that the time of, I would buy those back in the days when doing things that were gross were considered to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they're just gross.
No, now, at what age did that transition happen?
Probably about 13.
You think so?
Yeah,
okay.
give or take, yeah.
I always thought it kind of peaked at 13, then dropped off at 14.
And that could be true, too. Women's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowgirls will play their second round game in the WNIT tournament on Sunday afternoon in Laramie. They'll take on Texas San Antonio. USTA beat Northern Colorado and Greeley last night, 80-62, and UW comes into Sunday's game with a record of 16-14. At the men's NCAA basketball tournament, the Mountain West Conference had two teams eliminated yesterday. Colorado State scored a measly 11 points in the first half in their 56-44 loss to Texas. Nevada blew a 17-point lead and lost to Dayton 63-60. But for an added bonus for Wyoming Cowboy fans, BYU, a 6-seed, lost to Duquesne 71-67. Kentucky, a 3-seed, lost to 14-seeded Oakland 80-76, and Drake lost to Washington State 66-61. For the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team, they did lose 3 players to the transfer portal. 2 of them starters. Guard Brendan Wenzel will be leaving Laramie. He averaged 12 points a game. The other starter leaving is 6'10" forward Caden Powell. He averaged 5 points and 4 rebounds per game. In boys high school basketball, Joe Sawyer of Cheyenne Central was named the Gatorade Player of the Year in Wyoming. He averaged 15 points and 5 rebounds a game as Central won the 4A state championship with a record of 25-3. Girls high school soccer, Kelly Walsh playing in that Southern Coast tournament in Foley, Alabama. They played Norman, Oklahoma to a 1-1 tie yesterday. The Lady Trojans will play Broken Arrow, Oklahoma this afternoon in that tournament. Also in girls soccer later on today, the Trona will be at Riverton. Campbell County will visit Laramie. Thunder Basin will be at Cheyenne East, and Sheridan will go to Cheyenne South. In boys prep soccer, Kelly Walsh also in that Southern Coast tournament. They lost to Grissom, Oklahoma yesterday 1-0. They'll play Christian Brothers, Tennessee today. Also in boys soccer, Natrona at Riverton. Cheyenne East goes to Thunder Basin. South on the road at Sheridan, and Laramie will be on the road to Campbell County. Girls high school softball, Wheatland beat Cheyenne South 11-1 and 19-5 yesterday. Today, Laramie will be at Wheatland. Green River and Casper to play Kelly Walsh. Rock Springs and Casper to play Natrona. Thunder Basin and Cheyenne to meet Central. And Campbell County also in Cheyenne to take on East. And that's it in sports.
So you're leaving us today like you did yesterday?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go over to Worland for a little bit. I'll let you know when I'm going to launch. And maybe a little bit later than, but we'll make it. It's okay. And then, as usual, you can find places where there's no cell phone service at all. Like yesterday, I'm like, maybe they should be calling me. And then I looked at my phone. I'm like, no bars.
None whatsoever.
None, zero. I'm like, hey, there's people working out here in remote Campbell County and Weston County.
Exactly right. There's absolutely no cell signal whatsoever.
How does that happen,
though? Some people live out in that on purpose. You mean I can own a house where there's no cell service?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. I gotta roll into news time. I wonder if anyone who's not wanted to take a call, like he's fighting with his girlfriend or something like that, has driven into an area with no cell service just to use that as an excuse. I would. All right, coming up on some local business. News time after that. Update on your weather forecast. Wake Up Wyoming. 7:06 at time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Friday, and I'm real glad you made it. We get into this weekend, though. The weather changes up quite a bit. Don Day will explain the whole thing at 7:45 when I have live on the air. Morning, Guy in Cheyenne. Got all of your memes that you sent me. He sent me a whole bunch of stuff over the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Today's show is sponsored by Dissolving Underwear. Because who wants to wear wet undies anyway?
I just don't wear any, that's all. Oh, real quick, before I get on to the first subject, and it is open phones right now, so 888-97 Woods, 888-97 WOODS. That's first subject for this hour. If you missed last hour, don't worry. The show becomes a podcast, so you'll be able to go back and listen anytime you want. All right. So I brought in an interesting question in the bullpen back there. During that news and information break, I walked back to the other side of the room to talk to a couple of people I work with, Miss Mary and Sean, who's known as DJ Nike, and I posed a question, and they had some good answers. This all started with what I was talking with Frank Gambino about. So I want you, Frank yesterday was on the road, and he was going to do his sports report on the road, which he's done before. He pulls his car over, he does his sports report, he continues on. But he was in Campbell County on Highway 50, and he hit a dead spot. No cell service, no bars. So we couldn't reach him. He couldn't reach us. And then I asked the question, so imagine you're in a relationship, dating someone, married, whatever the case, and that person's really mad at you, and there's going to be a fight. Has anyone ever purposely driven into a cell area? I mean, just no cell service. Just so they didn't have to take the call, so they had an excuse. So we had a discussion about this. And that is something you can do in Wyoming. But Miss Mary, who seemed to know a little too much about it, said, well, you could just put your phone on airplane mode and you just tell them you drove into an area with no cell service. And that's Wyoming, so they would have to believe you. So you see, you have an out there. So you don't have to get into your phone and start making static noises. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You don't have to do that. I think Miss Mary's right. Just next time you're in an argument with someone and you want to bail, or you know there's going to be an argument, you want to bail, put your phone in airplane mode and just tell them, darling, baby, listen, honey, it's Wyoming. I was in a bad cell area. I couldn't take your call. I did. Never thought about it before. But these are the deep things that we discuss on a Friday when you're listening to news and things like that. All right, let me see. Double check here. It says 7:45. Running. Okay. I'm reading a message from Ms. Mary there. All right. So I talked about the University of Wyoming yesterday, and there are programs for diversity and inclusion and stuff like that. All right, I have an update on that, and this is kind of an important update from Cowboy State Daily. The headline is, University of Wyoming won't cut diversity program despite legislator defunding it. Now, I want to know what part did they discuss. Because what I want to get rid of is the entire Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. That's mainly what I want to cut. We had to talk about this yesterday. So, all right. Story reads, although the Wyoming legislator stripped $1.7 million in state money for the University of Wyoming Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office and related programming during the recent completed legislative session. See, I look at that and think, thank you for doing that. I was not aware, out of all the legislation they passed, that's one that they had passed, stripping the funding. Thank you for that. Now it sits on the governor's desk. We'll see if the governor signs it or vetoes it. All right. But the story says, after the UW Board of Trustees held a Thursday meeting filled with impassioned pleas from teachers and students to keep the DEI office and programming, University of Wyoming President Ed Seidel told Cowboy State Daily that the school has no plans to entirely cut DEI in any scenario. DEI money slashed from the $11.1 billion biennial budget is now sitting on Governor Mark Gordon's desk. But Seidel, hang on a second. Okay, hang on. Hang on. Can I pause for just a minute? Miss Mary just sent me a picture, and at first I was confused. It's a picture looking straight down a toilet bowl. And she says, that's a spider in the toilet. Okay. She says, asophobia or whatever you decide to call it is real. I could have been bitten and died. So I'll get back to the DEI story in just a moment. This is more important. We had an entire discussion about a phobia. We had to name the phobia this week. If you're camping and you go to the outhouse in the park, one of the good ones, not some cheap porta potty, there is a fear of being bitten in the butt while sitting over that hole. And it has happened to people. Some critter is down below, and they're sitting on the hole, and they get bitten by something. One lady in Alaska, there was a bear hiding underneath the outhouse, and it stuck its nose up and bit her in the butt when she sat down on the hole. What is the fear of being bitten in the hiney while sitting on a hole at the outhouse? So Miss Mary sends me a picture of the spider in the toilet in our building and says it's real. It could have bitten me. I could have died. Okay. That just makes my week. All right. Real quick, back to the story. All right. So I was not aware, and I'm very happy to see that our Wyoming legislators have cut the diversity, equity, and inclusion budget. But the president of the university says that even if the governor signs off on it, he said whether or not the governor saves this funding through a line item veto or not, or decides to let the cut happen, he says it's just not, well, they're going to keep the program anyway. Just the university will pay for it with their own money. The Board of Trustees also said this could include determining what parts of Wyoming DEI programming are essential for school functions. And I would say none. But all right. Seidel, the school president, said he views the way the budget amendment was written as stipulating the use of state money and that the school could continue to fund DEI office programming with its own private dollars. It does not say that the program cannot exist. Okay, so if the governor does not line item veto that, then diversity, equity, and inclusion will not be funded by your taxpayer dollars. At least we got that if the governor doesn't line item veto it. And that saves $1.7 million. And the program, which is what gets me, the university seems to think that its DEI program, diversity, equity, and inclusion office, and other programs cost $1.7 million, which is another thing that I look at and think, where do you get that much money from? Where is all that money going? How do any of these programs cost so much? I would really like to see the budget to find out how. So, okay, I am glad to see, again, I was not aware, because there was quite a few bills that were moving their way around. I was not aware that the university's program had been cut by the House and Senate. And to those members of the House and Senate, thank you for doing that. Really do appreciate it. It is a major step in the right direction. Now we just got to wait to see what the governor does.
I don't run to get ready for bikini season. I run so that in the year 2030, when I'm locked out of my electric car for having a bad social credit score, I can get outside the 15-minute city limits and escape the United Nations robocops that are after me for having a steak after I've reached my CO2 limit.
This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Real quick, the Miss Mary thing. We almost lost her. She sent me a picture of the toilet bowl looking straight down the hole in one of the toilets in this building. And there's this tiny little black dot, and I mean it's small. And she writes to me, that is a spider in the toilet. Asophobia, or whatever you decided to call it, it's real. I could have been bitten and died. And that brought me back to the discussion we have. And this was a very interesting discussion we had during the course of this week. If you're walking toward a outhouse and you have the fear of using the outhouse, it's not fear of the outhouse that I'm worried about. It's not fear of falling in. Specifically the fear of something biting you in the butt while you sit on the toilet, or you sit on the hole. So we had a lot of discussion about that, because this is an important program that breaks new ground. And we came up with the answer to that, which is on the Wake Up Wyoming site. Now, Fire Pit Paul sends me a note. Look up the song Red Leg on the Toilet Seat, which I will do. I'll go ahead and look up at that song, and I might have to send that to Miss Mary if it's what I'm thinking it is. Meantime, Paul, I sent you a note back, because while I was writing up the story on what you call the fear of being bitten in the butt while sitting on the hole, I found out there's actually a song about it.
Hey, don't linger too long in the outhouse, for there's creatures that live in the hole. Hey, when your work there is done, pull your pants up and run, if you want to be saving your soul.
See, there you go.
If you want to be saving your soul.
The entire song has several different stories about people who went to the outhouse and either were bitten or they never returned because there was something down in the hole there. So, you see, again, this program breaks new ground. All right, now, one last thing on the whole UW diversity, equity, and inclusion thing. Again, it's a step in the right direction, providing the governor signs off on it when he signs the budget. Or he could line item veto it, but the idea is, I didn't know they had done this. The House and Senate had denied $1.7 million to the University of Wyoming for their diversity, equity, and inclusion office and programs, which I've been advocating for that cut for a very long time. But what got me as I read the story to you just moments ago is, how does that all cost $1.7 million? There's a lot of things that government does that I'm trying to remember what agency this was, but there was some agency that wanted in Washington, D.C., that wanted to rebrand something. They wanted a new name and a new logo. And they wanted to make sure that the name they came up with for their agency was all inclusive and all of that, right? And so they wanted to hire, they went to Congress to ask for money. And I forget how many millions, but they wanted millions of dollars to study, to find out, have some kind of a study to find out what would be the perfect name and logo for their agency. How does that cost millions of dollars? I would really love to know. I really do think that people who are in government, not just politicians, but bureaucrats, do not have an idea of what things really do cost. If you want to have diversity, equity, and inclusion at the University of Wyoming, how does that cost $1.7 million? I don't think that it does. Now, in the meantime, as I talk about this, one of the stories that I put together for you today was, right now, today, your government is, once again, federal government, rushing through to put together a last-minute Band-Aid because they're about to run out of money. Again. Yet again, they're going to run out of money. In doing so, they're slamming together, they're acting like this is a crisis, right? And they're slamming together a bill that has all sorts of earmarks in it. Now, just to name a few, Senator Rand Paul.
$4 million for a waterfront walkway in New Jersey. We're $34 trillion in debt, and they're going to take money that's supposed to be for the general welfare to help one specific town. This is a town with a median income of $100,000. You think maybe they could pay for their own boardwalk? $3.5 trillion for Detroit's Thanksgiving parade float makers' new headquarters. So the people who make the floats for the parade in Detroit are going to get a new headquarters. Does anybody think that's for the general welfare? The Metropolitan Museum of Art is giving $1.75 million. You say, well, I love art and we need to fund art. This is a regional art museum, and it's a museum that has a $5 billion endowment. Some of the richest people in our country give to this museum, and that's great. Their names are on the wings of the museum. That's great. We have always had support by rich people in our country for museums. That's great. But we don't need to be taxing the everyday working man in our country to send another $1 million to a museum in New York that has a $5 billion endowment. They also have $1 million for the Environmental Justice Center in New York. So if you're a crazy climate alarmist and you think the world's going to end and the polar bears are drowning from too much water, note to self, polar bears swim in the water. They live in the water. The polar bears are not drowning because of global warming. Your money's being sent to fund this politically charged nonsense that has nothing to do with justice. $500,000 for gardens in San Francisco. Now, I understand the smell is bad in San Francisco from the human feces, from the waste, from the trash, from the litter, from the drug addicts that strew all of their needles across the place. They need to clean their city up. They don't need to be asking for taxpayers in Kentucky and around the country to plant flowers for them to obscure the smell of their problem because they've let their city go to rot and ruin. $1 million to a nonprofit in Minnesota to build a coffee shop for refugees. No, it's great about America to get $7 lattes when you're paying for it, not when the government's paying for it. $500,000 for a cybercrime vehicle for the Honolulu police. The question I have about cybercrime is, are they using warrants? Are they eavesdropping on all of us? Or are they actually doing warrantless searches of innocent Americans? But this is not something the federal government should be funding. $1.2 million earmark for Bike Pass in Rhode Island. Look, I'm a bike rider. I like Bike Pass as much as the next person. They should be funded locally. That's not the general welfare. A bike path in Rhode Island is the business of Rhode Island. $209,000 for an air conditioner in the Charlestown Opera House in West Virginia. Now, you might ask yourself how that is of general interest or of the general welfare, and you would be right. It's not. It's very parochial. But you would also ask why they spent $100,000 last year fixing the air conditioner is going to cost another $200,000 this year. These are the 10 of over 6,000 wasteful earmarks included in this minibus.
And Jim from Laramie just sent me this note. Sounds like the university has $1.7 million of their own money to spend on the program. How much more money does the university have that they don't need state funding for? That question should be asked, yeah. And Jim, I really do think that the University of Wyoming shouldn't need any state money at all. It should be able to survive by itself. It shouldn't have to have money coming in from the state to keep it up and running. If it was run properly, that would be the case. Coming up on 7:30, local news coming your way right after local news update on the weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
'Sure this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
$7:36 the time. Wake Up Wyoming in just a few minutes, 7:45. Don Day's going to be on with me, because we have a weekend of changing weather. In fact, next week and on through Easter, the weather's changing quite a bit. So, and he'll talk, it's just typical for this time of year. Nothing unusual about it. We get into fall and spring, and those are the two times when we're transitioning. So the weather gets pretty disruptive. Good, because there's some areas that have not been getting wet this winter that are going to get a lot of wet. In fact, east of us over into South Dakota and Nebraska, wow, some areas out there are going to get really hit. Okay. A 102-year-old Oakland man has been ordered to clean up graffiti on his fence or pay thousands. Now, if you think, is a 100-year-old man spraying graffiti on his fence? No. Story says runaway graffiti, sometimes call it urban art. This is just garbage. Has often been cited as a major sign of urban decay and disrespectful for private and public property. There are rules against graffiti. Enforcing it sometimes causes more trouble than it's worth. So, in fact, it takes judgments and documents and bureaucracy and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at this old guy here. He's 102 years old. He's wheelchair bound. Earlier this month, he got a citation from the city of Oakland to remove the graffiti on his back fence in his yard. Somebody went down the alleyway and sprayed a bunch of graffiti on there. He doesn't know who. Do it by Tuesday the 19th or face a $1,100 fine, plus additional $1,277 for each failed reinspection. The old guy said, I was so absurd. Is this a joke? If you drive around the city, and I like this, he said, if you drive around the city, you can see graffiti is everywhere. I just don't know what to say, said the daughter-in-law. Okay, so, and I'm taking a look at it's a wooden fence, but the slats are vertical, not horizontal. And on the back alleyway, someone just went around just spraying garbage all over it. Okay, so my thought, he says the old guy says it's very easy. He just went back there with a bucket of paint and sitting in his wheelchair and just painted over it, and there you go. But my thought to the city would be, hang on. You're talking Oakland, California. Let's take a look at what we have here. We have needles from drug addicts on the street. We have human urine and feces on the street. We have human debris itself, people living on the streets. We have graffiti all over the place. That's something the city is supposed to be taking care of, but they're not because it's Oakland, California. And yet they're after this 102-year-old wheelchair-bound guy, clean up your fence, or we're going to start to fine you. Now, one of the ways to handle this is to make sure that everything the city just said to him gets a hell of a lot of publicity in Oakland. I mean a lot. And then that way then people can go to city officials and go, excuse me, before you get on this guy's case, what the hell? What about all the other city properties and even private properties that are just a mess because the city is not taking care of business? Oakland, California, like many other cities in California, is just a mess. And that's putting it mildly. It's just a mess. So why are you picking on the 102-year-old guy in a wheelchair, which makes it as bad as it could possibly be? I mean, think about it. You can pick on anybody. They could have gone after some businessman who had a lot of money, something like that. But no, they go after a 102-year-old man in a wheelchair. That gives you an idea of what bureaucracy is like in a major city, or just bureaucracy in general. Did they not even, because that just looks so bad for them, did they not even bother before we find this guy? Should we go ahead and take a look? They didn't, obviously. So, okay. My advice to the old guy and his family, make a big deal out of this. Embarrass the city. Especially because this is an election year, and hopefully, during an election year, you can run some of these people out of office.
Why are you crying?
Because I don't want to be an adult.
You don't want to be an adult? I cry about that a lot, too. Why don't you want to be an adult?
Because it's not fun. It's going to be no fun. It's like a prison being an adult.
It is like a prison being an adult.
Come on, B. I don't want to be an adult. I don't even want to be a teenager. I just want to be a kid.
Me too. Can I be a kid?
No.
When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
7:45 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to Don Day with day weather. So this morning, Don, I was able to catch on the morning news for Minneapolis, of all places. Their morning news crews are telling everybody, batten down the hatches because here it comes.
Yeah, I tell you, the central and northern plains are going to get a very large, very intense spring storm that's going to be, for those in northern areas, it's going to mostly be all snow. It may start as rain, but South Dakota, North Dakota, there's a large chunk of Nebraska, Minnesota, parts of Iowa, then into the Great Lakes. 12, 18 inches of snow in most areas there. Some areas will exceed 20 inches. There'll be a lot of wind with it. It's going to be a good old-fashioned March snowstorm up there, and we're catching the edge of it. We're obviously not in the bullseye, not looking at anything like that, but folks across Wyoming and the region need to be prepared for much, much colder weather and some snow, especially in that Sunday, Monday time frame.
Okay. Now we get into Sunday, Monday, but it looks like I like your analogy this morning on your podcast of the bowling alley and bowling balls, because those low-pressure systems are lining up, and it's going to be one after the next rolling down on us.
Yeah, we're going to see the main system Sunday and Monday, but a couple of smaller ones that'll keep at least mountain snow showers going, and a few snow showers in the plains Monday and Tuesday. We have a middle of the week break Wednesday that'll go through a good part of Thursday, but there's one of these bowling balls. It'll be a small, compact, but intense little storm rolling off the West Coast, and when you look at it at weather maps, it'll be like this large circle. So it does look like a bowling ball just rolling across the U.S. And we tend to see that as you get into the spring season. And those little bowling balls, Glenn, they're big weather makers. They can wreak a lot of havoc from severe weather ahead of them out in the plains to winter conditions on the back side of them. And it's going to move really quickly. So we're going to kind of need to stay on our toes, and that's followed up by another one Easter Sunday into the following Monday. So these systems are stacked up. They're lined up all the way into early.
But it looks like there's little breaks in between.
Yeah, and you'll get that, but little. They're not going to go 5 or 6 days. So you'll get a couple of decent days where the weather gets better before the next one comes on in.
Okay, but it's now, to be clear, it's not even just us in the West or Midwest. All the way up into Maine.
Yeah, in fact, I'm pressed to find anywhere in the lower 48 states where we could say, oh, you should go there and have some nice weather. This is really going to be getting about everybody.
How's Hawaii looking right about now?
I haven't looked.
Okay, see, that's just a thought. We can go to Hawaii.
But I said lower 48.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm suggesting getting out of the lower 48. Hey, have a great weekend.
Or no. Go to no.
Yeah. All right, have a great weekend, Don. I appreciate it. There you go. Just get yourself ready for that during the course of it. We're going to get just a lot of little stuff. It's really in the Midwest area, out in the plains, that's going to get the worst of it. So off we go. Hang on a second. There we go. To the icebox. Frank Gambino waiting by. Frank, we almost lost Miss Mary.
Where did she go?
Okay, well, she sent me
I just saw her downstairs, though.
Well, I see she sent me a picture just a little while ago. And I was really surprised because it's a picture looking straight down into one of our toilet bowls. Right. In the toilet bowl water was this tiny, almost not perceivable little dot. That was a spider. And she said it was swimming toward the edge to try to get out of the water. And so her note to me...
And she smashed it!
Yeah, well, no, she flushed it.
Oh.
Her note to me, that's a spider in the toilet. Asophobia, or whatever you decided to call it, is real. I would have been bitten and died. She would have died right there on the pot.
Yeah. How embarrassing.
Yes, because as she described it in detail moments ago, her behind would have swollen up and she would have been stuck on the toilet. And then how we get her out of there? And she's dead.
Well, no, and then you got to call the paramedics and they're going to be like...
what an embarrassing way to die.
But and then we can take pictures of it and make it a post on our internet sites.
I said that to her, make a great gallery. But I think also I pointed out the fact that the spider was almost not visible. To me, that makes it the most dangerous kind of spider.
No, because it could stick to you forever.
Yeah, forever, yeah. The big ones, like when you're watching a horror movie and it's as big as a minivan or something like that, I can handle that. Give me a shotgun. We're good here. But when they get that small, see, they can sneak up on you.
Yeah, that would have been a gallery from award-winning gallery.
Yeah, so that brings out the whole discussion we had, which we did settle on the word, but it's on the Wake Up Wyoming site, folks. And I had to be very specific with people. When you go to an outhouse and you're afraid to sit on the hole because something might bite you, what do we call that?
Call that, let's not go to the outhouse. Well, let's go outside.
And I brought up the story about the woman in Alaska who's actually bitten behind by a bear.
Well,
who was down there. Yeah. So, I mean, these things actually happen. Frank, these are the important discussions we have on this morning radio program.
I know. I told you yesterday. I learned something new every day.
Every single day like this. I mean, there's other talk shows who, you've heard them, Frank, which is all they do is whine and complain about stuff all day long.
Yeah.
And that gets kind of old. We handle issues like this. Also, we handled the issue. There's a picture of Miss Mary sitting on the floor. Did you see that one?
I saw that one.
Yes, yeah. And people started yelling at me, go get her a desk and a chair.
She has one.
She has a desk and a chair. Yes, just so people know. She decided to sit down there.
All righty. Women's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowgirls will play their second round game in the WNIT on Sunday afternoon in Laramie at 1 p.m. taking on Texas San Antonio. USTA beat Northern Colorado and Greeley last night 80-62, and UW comes into Sunday's game with a record of 16-14. At the men's NCAA basketball tournament, the Mountain West Conference had two teams eliminated yesterday. Colorado State scored a measly 11 points in the first half in their 56-44 loss to Texas. Nevada blew a 17-point lead and lost to Dayton 63-60. But an added bonus for Wyoming Cowboy fans, BYU, a 6 seed, they lost to Duquesne 71-67. And Kentucky, a 3 seed, the upset of the day, lost to 14-seeded Oakland 80-76. And Drake lost to Washington State 66-61. For the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team now, they have lost 3 players to the transfer portal. 2 of them were starters. Guard Brendan Wenzel will be leaving Laramie. He averaged 12 points a game this past season. The other starter is 6'10" forward Caden Powell, and he averaged 5 points and 4 rebounds a game, so he will be leaving. In boys high school basketball, Joe Sawyer of Cheyenne Central named the Gatorade Player of the Year in Wyoming. He averaged 15 points and 5 rebounds per game as Central won the 4A state championship with a record of 25-3. Girls high school soccer, Kelly Walsh playing in that Southern Coast tournament in Foley, Alabama. They played Norman, Oklahoma yesterday to a 1-1 tie. Lady Trojans will play Broken Arrow, Oklahoma this afternoon in that tournament. Also in girls soccer later on today, and the Toronto will be at Riverton. Campbell County will visit Laramie. Thunder Basin will be at Cheyenne East, and Sheridan will go to Cheyenne South. In boys prep soccer, Kelly Walsh also in that Southern Coast tournament. They lost to Grissom, Alabama yesterday 1-0. They will play Christian Brothers, Tennessee today. Also in boys soccer, Natrona at Riverton today. Cheyenne East goes to Thunder Basin, South on the road at Sheridan, and Laramie will be on the road at Campbell County. Girls high school softball, Wheatland beat Cheyenne South in a doubleheader yesterday 11-1 and 19-5. Today Laramie will be at Wheatland, Green River and Casper to meet Kelly Walsh, Rock Springs and Casper to take on the Trona. Thunder Basin moves down to Cheyenne to take on Central, and Campbell County will make the trip to Cheyenne to take on East, and that's it in sports.
So it's that time of year when we lose people to the portal.
Yes, it's a revolving door.
Okay. No, I always picture some kind of a black hole opening up at the UW.
Or something out of Star Trek.
Yes.
Remember when they stood underneath the thing and they just, portal them up there?
Right, they just get sucked on through to some other place, and hopefully they know where they're going to land.
Well, that's the thing, is that the Star Trek portal, they knew where they were going.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But these guys have no idea really right now.
I think that's probably, to be serious, the scary part is they know they got to step through, but where are you going?
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be paradise.
It could be, or
the outhouse.
There you go. The hole in the outhouse. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on the important topics we cover in this program. Coming up on some local business that we got to take care of. Then it's going to be news time, national local update on the weather forecast. It is a Friday. We are in open phones. Governor Gordon did sign a package into law that should be property tax relief. We'll look at that, among other things, next hour in the program. Let's Wake Up Wyoming. Time is 8:06. It is a Friday. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Glad you made it. Pay attention to that weather forecast over the next few days. Depending on where you are, that's going to be changing quite a bit.
Today's show is sponsored by Dissolving Underwear. Because who wants to wear wet undies anyway?
I just don't wear them. Anyway, most dangerous time of the program is actually all day today. It's open phone. So.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in.
and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine. I'll just kind of roll with the whole thing. I'm going to put the original topic aside because this I just found. Let's go to New York City. Rumors of charcoal or gas grill ban in New York. They've done this in California. Now they're trying to do it here. All right. Story says, spring 2024. Here we are. And it's time to break out the grill, smoker, barbecue. Now, if you're here in Wyoming, you were barbecuing all winter. Doesn't matter. I mean, minus 10 degrees out there. As long as it's not too windy, you'll go out there and light the grill. But what does New York State have planned for the future of those propane or charcoal grills? Well, there's rumors that a statewide ban on various gas and coal and wood fire items may be looming. Now, no, it wouldn't be surprising because, again, California did this. If you love to grill like I do, says the author, you have to wonder what lies ahead when it comes to these new laws. New York State does tend to follow other states like California when it comes to progressiveness. So it actually could happen. And they've already done that with pizza. There's pizza places in New York City that cook on coal and have been for a very long time. And now they don't just get garbage coal. They get the good coal. So there's not a lot of particulate matter going into the atmosphere. But no, we got to ban those too. And that's going to hurt those pizzerias that do it that way. One of the things that makes their pizzas so special, right, is that they're cooking it on coal. All right. Story says both New York and California have already taken steps in this direction. New York has banned the installation of natural gas lines in new construction starting in 2026. California recently banned the sale of single-use propane tanks, single-use propane tanks, such as the ones in camping grills. And Albany has begun discussing that as well. It could ban larger refillable propane tanks that are used in barbecue grills. So from there, it's only a small step to banning the sale of bags of charcoal in that way. And the state could really have a ban on, well, they could progress it from there. They would simply outlaw any method of heating up the way you want to cook it. Natural gas. I wonder, what about wood chips, stuff like that? Probably. This author says, I believe that down in their heart, the governor knows that trying to ban outdoor grilling would be a step too far, even for her, if the way of life in upstate New York, which is, upstate New York is not city. Okay, it's country. And people would be up in arms. If they came up with less than 10 points of a law, she wouldn't win re-election on something like that. So, you get the idea. They just keep pushing on stuff. Well, you know, if you keep electing these people, this is what you get. I mean, honestly, you want to stop this kind of nonsense, quit electing these people. It comes down to that. Let's get back to the state of Wyoming here. Governor Gordon has signed in a property tax relief package. All right, so let's see what we got. And even when I had him on the show last time, Governor Gordon even said that he was in favor of that bill that would have turned over most property taxes in Wyoming to instead a state sales tax. It actually was a very good idea the way it was written up. Maybe a couple of things could have been tweaked, but it was a very good idea. That died. That needs to be brought back. Here's the story. Cowboy State Daily. Governor Mark Gordon, yesterday, signed into law a package of property tax relief bills approved by the legislature session 2024. Collectively, the legislators created exemptions for certain homeowners, doubles an existing exemption for veterans, caps annual increases, and expands eligibility for a state refund program. And Governor said, I'm happy to sign this package of legislation, which provides targeted relief to taxpayers most impacted by increasing valuations, while ensuring our counties and schools are able to provide the services we all rely on. As property values in Wyoming rose in recent years, so did taxes, and then the story explains how we got into this position. Most of the bills Gordon signed create property tax exemptions. So there was House Bill 3. House Bill 3, property tax exemptions for long-term homeowners. That established a 50% exemption for homeowners or their spouses who are at least 65 years or older and have paid Wyoming property taxes for at least 25 years. The exemption will apply to the assets value of the home. Military personnel who declare Wyoming as their domicile also qualify. That bill goes into effect January 1st and will sunset January 1st of 2027. So that's a temporary thing. That's part of the problem that I had with it. It was a temporary thing. And why push it back to January 1st? Why can't we do this now? But all right, next one. This was brought by Representative Barry Cargo, Republican, Buffalo, House Bill 45, property tax exemption, residential structure and land. That's a cap on structures as exempt. More specifically, it will exempt annual property tax increases over 4%. Since it's effective immediately, that's good. Qualified homeowners will be able to apply for the exemption on their 2024 tax. All right, the next one, Senate File 89, Veterans ad valorem exemption amount. This is brought by Senator Ed Cooper, Republican, Tensleep. Updates the existing exemption, doubles the exemption for certain veterans from $3,000 of the assets value to $6,000. The bill includes about $8 million to reimburse the county treasury for any lost revenue. The bill, and that would come from the state. But not all property tax bills favored, it said. Senate File 54, homeowner tax exemption, would have applied 25% exemption for the first $2 million of the home's fair market value. The governor, however, vetoed that bill since it would only provide a temporary and very expensive tax exemption to all Wyoming homeowners at the expense of other taxpayers in energy industry, retailing, manufacturing, things like that. Governor, in his letter, sent strong words for each legislative branch. He said the bill could be considered an example of electioneering. He goes on in the letter what he had objections to. The refund program. In his earlier request, lawmakers for property tax relief asked for $20 million for existing refund programs. He got that much, but lawmakers took things, he says, too far in the bill to broaden the program. So that's what we have now. That's what the governor has signed. I think, though, in the long run, we need to go back and take a look at that bill that would have changed property taxes for most people. I thought this was a good idea. Property taxes for most people into a sales tax. A little bit of a tweaking on that, and we would have had, for a lot of people in Wyoming, no property tax at all, which I think is a far superior way to go. 816, Wake Up Wyoming.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Phones are open, so 888-97-WOODS, 888-97 WOODS. Mike is in Laramie. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Glenn.
Yes, sir.
I heard on KOWB this morning that YDOT is going to issue new license plate designs next year. And we're all going to have to change our plates over. I'm wondering, why are we spending money on this when the current plates are perfectly serviceable?
I don't know. Now, is it a new plate that you all have to switch over to, or are they just offering an extra plate that you could put on?
We all have to switch over.
Okay. Because states are always saying, hey, we want to make some extra money. How would you like this plate? And they make extra money by putting specialty plates out. But I hadn't seen that you had to buy that one. So, well, okay. Is it going to cost you extra?
when you get the new plates, they always charge you for the new plate.
Okay. So, all right.
But I'm just wondering, why do we need to do this when the current plates are perfectly serviceable?
Okay. Did you see any explanation as to why? I'll see if I can look it up.
No, it wasn't as the radio story on KOW didn't mention why, but just said that they're changing the design and everybody's going to change over by the end of 2025.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, the current plates are perfectly serviceable, so why are we spending taxpayer dollars to do this?
Okay. I'll see if I can find out, because I have seen that story popping up, but I didn't read the story because I didn't think we had to. So I'll see what I can find and answer that.
Okay.
And maybe it's just because we want to look cool like the other states.
I guess, but like I said, it seems like a waste of money if the current plates are holding up just fine.
All right. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Well, I don't know enough about the story to really comment on it. So I'll see if I can find something, because I did see a license plate story floating around out there. I'll see what I can find. There is, this I thought was interesting. Speaking of license plate, San Francisco, and I want to make sure, because some people misunderstand when I do it that way. When we get that call occasionally from Dave in San Francisco, Dave is snooty. Okay. Because San Francisco is better than every place else. So that's the snooty accent. Because he really does think he's better than everybody, even though the city's completely falling apart. But all right, San Francisco is installing 400 license plate reading cameras with all the crime. Leaders in the community held press conferences Wednesday to highlight the technology, which the city received $15.3 million, according to local reports. The mayor said this does not mean including speed cameras. This does not include facial recognition, but it will be useful for Amber Alerts and things like that. San Francisco chief of police said it will help officers catch alleged criminals and address homicides, robberies, and stuff like that. So using over $15 million, they're going to put cameras all over the place. Now, the response to this has been hysterical, because drivers have been putting up things whenever they know they're coming up on a camera somewhere. They put up something in front of their face. Here's a driver taunting a just a camera in general. No photographs, the sign reads. Call my agent. Now, guy probably doesn't have an agent, but still. No photographs, call my agent. Another guy who decided just to go ahead and put his dog in his lap. It's a pretty good-sized dog. So the dog covers his face. So he's driving down the road. It looks like the dog is driving the car. This is what people are doing to get around these things. But, okay. All right. 888-97-WOODS is the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Survey finds 68% of small businesses view Generation Z employees as less reliable. Now, I understand when I first got out into the workforce, I was young. I had a lot to learn. And I wasn't very good at anything, so I had to learn how to work. I understand young people showing up to work and having to get work skills, but they're saying, wow, they're really bad. America's newest entrants into the workforce aren't making a big splash or a favorable impression, it says. 68% of small business owners believe Generation Z employees are the least reliable of any workforce they've ever had to deal with. And right away I thought, we've actually been covering this for quite a while. I have audio in a file like this.
I cannot stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9-to-5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective for everybody who's a little confused here, okay? I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week, okay? I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat. All by myself. Right. I would not be capable of doing that. 20 years ago when you were getting started, you could live on your own.
No, wait, stop right there. I remember covering this one, and I told that young lady, I remember when I first got out on my own, here I am 20 years old, my first apartment, And I wasn't able to make it unless I got a roommate, stuff like that. So she's completely wrong about that. I had to get, I had to pull all sorts of interesting little things like roommates and other stuff like that. I didn't just have one job. I had my full-time job, but I had another job besides that just to try to make it.
I know I'm probably just being so dramatic and annoying, but this is my first job, like my first 9-to-5 job after college, and I'm in person, and I'm commuting in the city, and it takes me forever to get there. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford living in the city right now, so that's off the table.
Okay.
Like, if I was able to walk to work, and it'd be fine, but I'm not. So it literally takes me, like, I leave here, like, I get on the train at 7:30, and I don't get home till, like, 6:15 earliest, and then, like, I don't have time to do anything. I want to shower, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. I don't have time or energy to cook my dinner either. Like, I don't have energy to work out. Like, that's out the window.
She goes on and on like this. And how many times does she have to say like? Well, the answer, young lady, is welcome to adulting. It always starts off that way for young people. You're not doing anything new.
I came up with this thing for myself called Bare Minimum Monday that I've been doing for the past several weeks.
A lazy girl job is something that you can basically quiet quit.
The 9-to-5 schedule in general is crazy.
Yes, it is. Welcome to adulting. Did no one ever tell you about this? Okay. A couple of people are sending me notes here. Greg from Cheyenne. Glenn, they issue new license plates about every 5 years. Okay. I did not know that. Jimbo from Wellington, Colorado. Regarding the license plate issue, this has been the case since I was a young kid in the 1970s. For some reason, Wyoming law has a law that they have to change the plate design every 5 years. I believe, I don't remember why, and it's stupid in my view. Okay. Had no idea. If I can, I'll go ahead and see, because I remember seeing a license plate story out there, but I didn't read it because I didn't really care. But okay, if now that's the thing, they change it every 5 years, I don't know. Let's find out what that's all about. 8:29 is the time. Coming up on local news, update on your weather forecast after that. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. I'll just kind of roll with it. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
So many opinions, we had to build the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app to hold them all. Free download from AM 1030 K2 Radio.
Hey, 36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Saw a couple of people here. First off, my sister, regarding the Gen Z. Millennials are adults now with kids and stuff, but the Gen Z kids who just are out on their own for the first time and they don't get it. Well, I have to have like roommates and a second job, and well, welcome to our world. My sister says, like, I never go out drinking, like I work like 2 jobs to pay for my car and apartment at like age 20. Like the drinking age was 19 and I had to work instead of drinking. And I wrote back, basically, I remember I had a full-time job and a half. I had a full-time job plus another job. So it was a job and a half. And I still had a apartment with a roommate and a crappy car, and on it went. It was a struggle, but gee, welcome to getting out on your own for the first time. That's just the way that is. All right. Several people are sending me notes. Sergeant Schultz and True Dog are sending me notes, but also, thank you, Miss Mary. Yes, I did find the story. I thought we had it on our Wake Up Wyoming site. Here's what it says. Next year, Green River Series license plate will be phased out and replaced with the Wyoming flag design. A project was just kept WYDOT's tag plant busy as they prepare for more than 2 million plates from Wyoming to distribute to customers. Before 2001, Wyoming State Penitentiary produced all the plates, but when the Hang on a second. Let me push a button here. There we go. Line that one up. But when the increased plate plant shut down, WYDOT took over, and according to the manager, WYDOT makes all the plates at their facility, including the specialty ones. In recent press release, they explained that the plates are printed onto special adhesive backstock with security features, aluminum backing. Now they come through a press which chops the corners, et cetera, punches the holes. All plates must be renewed and feature the new design by the end of next year. Wyoming plates are required by law to change designs every 8 years. It takes more than half the time to prepare for the changeover. It takes a lot more time to make them, but also to package and deliver them. On average, Lund says it's between 375,000 and 425 new plates a year. They gear up for 4 to 5 years before they have to issue them out. Production for the new plates is just about done. They all got they got the smaller county finished. They're working on it from there. But anyway, all right. So there's the idea about these plates. Why they do that every 8 years, I have no idea. I really don't know why we had to have such a law. I don't mind getting new plates and stuff, but what was with the law that we have to completely change them out every 8 years? I'd like to do some backstory on that and find out. All right, off we go back to the phones. By the way, 888-97-WOODS is the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. To Mills, Wyoming. Hey, Jude.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, the plates are absolutely. You know what they look like? They look like Michigan.
Yeah.
Back in 1982 or 81 before I left. It may be blue and white, but it was black and white back then over there.
Right.
Wyoming did have a black and white plate years and years ago. I don't remember the year. But anyway, moving on, I wanted to tell you, Harriet did a great job this last 3 days in committee. She survived the wolves, Swalwell, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Jayapal on keeping boys and girls sports separate. She's a hero in my book right now. She's also getting a hold of that Rock Springs land grab down there, and she's working on that for us. So Harriet's doing a great job. I do want to send a shout out to Steve Harshman and Dave North and Chuck Gray for going to the Coach Road event last night at the Ag Building here in Casper. The people didn't look too happy, but I just want to remind everyone, you're going to need experts if you're going to stop the conditional use permit. There's no other way to fight that. So get your money together and start finding people that can find a tsetse fly that lives on that land that will be destroyed, or that your water is really going to be impacted. You're going to have to spend the money if you hope to beat these guys, because I know planning and zoning. I've been battling these guys for years, and I'll tell you what, the commissioners only do what their planners tell them to do, and if the planners say there's not enough evidence, they will get their conditional use permit. Then last and least, this morning I read the Supreme Court refused to review a case that seems to establish a double standard for Donald Trump and other private citizens in the country. Okay, this Corey Griffin is a commissioner down in New Mexico, and he was at the J6 event. They got him on trespassing. Well, now they're telling him that he can no longer run for office, and the Supreme Court would not hear the case to overturn the lower courts of Colorado. You know, he wasn't charged with insurrection, but now he can't run for office. I want to know, what is wrong with this country? Why are we allowing these people to do these things? Where is our military? Because when a country becomes so unmanageable and so corrupt, the military and the militia is supposed to take back the country.
What I'm really concerned about, Judy, is why do the American people keep voting for this kind of stuff? I just got done reading about some... I
don't even think it's about voting. I really don't. I don't even think it's about voting anymore, because the voting has been so corrupt for so long. You know, I can go back to Al Gore and Bush in 2000 and remember what a crop a deal that was. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they fought it down in Florida, and all of a sudden, baby Bush wins.
Right.
So I think they've been stealing it a long time. I think it's about we need to make sure that we start doing something about it. We are 320 million Americans. And you know what? If we got our minds together and our brains together, these guys wouldn't be in office at all. And it wouldn't be by the ballot box. I'm sick of the treason. I'm sick of the corrupt courts. I'm sick of what they're doing to Trump. I'm sick of what we have to fight on a daily level just to own our own property and not have it taken, like you were talking this morning. The fines that this gentleman in the wheelchair is going to accumulate for graffiti, okay, that's how they do it. They fine you so much that they get to take your property by lien. That's why I've always been against planning and zoning. I think it's garbage. I think it's a way to extort money from us, from permits and fees. I could go on for an hour. I'm just pissed, and it's Friday, and I better get this out before I go nuts.
That's exactly what. See, this is what happened. Judy decompresses, and then it's safe for her to go outside, and we're all safe. Because if not, It would be like a nuclear explosion. It would be like the new plant in Kemmerer that they're planning to blowing up.
Oh, don't even get me started on that. I mean, that's all we need is a nuclear plant all over Wyoming.
Yeah.
So when Yellowstone blows, we end up with we call it radiation poisoning everywhere, and they can't get rid of those rods. Okay, they're going to have to bury them in the ground. So we're going to have 3-headed deer. You know.
Well, I mean, that just makes it an easier shot, doesn't it? It just makes it an easier shot. As long as when I cut one of the heads off, 2 more don't grow back.
Well, you got 1 for each wall, and then you still have meat.
Have a great weekend, Jude. All right. So, you see, this is why I say the show is therapy. Now that she has decompressed, it's safe for the rest of us. Let's wake up.
Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So, Miss Mary, able to get a hold of Frank, or did he get into another dead zone out there? That happens now. That Frank is on the road again, and when he's way out there on the road means he's covering sports for the rest of you guys. Last time I was talking local sports with him, he was so excited that they're starting to water the golf courses and get it ready.
You know, a lot of people say to me, Lee, you should take up golf. It's really good for you. Do you know what I say? I mean, it's a good game. I understand, people playing it. I understand, but I don't get it. A game you only play on one glove. What's that? You don't play it wearing one shoe, do you? You say to a golfer, why the glove? They go, oh, grip. I'll tell you what do you put 2 gloves on? Guess what that is? More grip. I actually attempted to play golf once, and I nearly snapped my spinal cord in 9 places trying to get one of them sand traps. Whose idea was it to put a stretch of sand in the middle of some woodland? Well, that's just a mirage, but the other way round. You're playing a game in the woods, and no, you're not, you're on the beach. That's like going surfing and someone saying, oh, watch them oak trees on the way in, won't you? And golf is the only game where you get someone to help you play it. The caddy does everything for you. Carries your clubs, tells you what club to use, how far the hole is. Well, I do a bit of sport if there was someone doing half the work for me. That'd be great if you were swimming. There's some bloke by your side going, anything you need? Not at the moment, no. You sure? There's a Starbucks round the corner. I'll tell you what, you can drag me the rest of the way. That's lovely, thanks. And who come up with a scoring system for golf? Birdie. That's the point in golf. Birdie. I reckon the bloke who come up with the scoring system was heavily distracted that day. They went, what's that? Huh? That's a birdie. What's that? Huh? It's an eagle. What's that? It's a bogey. Playing golf? That's a word that ain't even finished yet. You're 4 under par. Par. No, just par. And they say golf is good exercise for you. What exercise? Golf is the only game where you get a lift to the next hole on that bleeding golf buggy. What lazy bugger come up with that? You know you never see that in other sports, do you? That'd be good in the marathon, wouldn't it? On your marks, get set, go! Taxi! Where you going? Finish line, please!
See, I always thought that golf was one of those sports where people whose body were just not prepared or ever would be prepared for any other sports.
You guys say the meanest things to these athletes, the meanest things. Like they were watching Tom Brady and they were like, Tom Brady, you suck. Tom Brady sucks. I don't know that much about football, but I'm pretty sure Tom Brady doesn't suck at football. I'm pretty sure you suck. I'm pretty sure all you suck at football. I just wish these athletes would stand up for themselves, you know, against these horrible things you say. I wish just one time Tom Brady would look directly into the camera and be like, hey man, I got this. I make $20 million a year and you can't even do a sit-up.
You know, for years, I was a child. And during that time, I was terrible at sports. I'm still an awful athlete. My body is bad at sports. That's the problem. And I say that my body is bad at sports because I think my brain is good at sports. Like, I think my brain understands how a human being could, like, dribble down a basketball court and then make a layup, right? But then it has to outsource the job to my weird and feminine limbs. And so when I play basketball, it looks like I just bought my body and I don't know how it works yet. But I played basketball. I played basketball for 5 years. And I was a bench warmer all 5 years. And if you were never a bench warmer, I cannot express to you the humiliation of every Saturday morning putting on a pair of breakaway pants and never having a reason to break them away.
Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. And then more open phones. 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming. Six at a time. It's Wake Up Wyoming Friday. Glad you made it all the way through. I don't know about where you are, where I am. The colder, mistier weather is slowly moving into the area. Get ready for some weather this weekend. It's going to change up quite a bit. You heard Don Day's forecast. So it's, May, April is when we get most of the wet. That's what makes it this.
Today's show is sponsored by Dissolving Underwear. Because who wants to wear wet undies anyway?
Just don't wear them if that's the problem.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
So, okay, I can be interrupted at any time. I got some stories I want to go through to do some house cleaning before the end of the program. First one, a federal judge. Now, right away, for those who have theories about why Biden wants so many illegals entering this country. This is going to play right into that. Federal judge dismisses lawsuit challenging D.C. non-citizen voting law. A federal judge yesterday tossed a conservative legal group's lawsuit against the controversial Washington, D.C. law that allows non-citizens, including illegal immigrants and foreign embassy staff, to vote. Now, this is in municipal, local elections, not national. So if you're thinking, you mean for president? No, local elections. Still. In a 12-page opinion, Judge Amy Bernard Jackson said the plaintiff group, U.S. citizens, voter representatives by the Immigration Reform Law Institute, lacked standing to challenge the law because they could not demonstrate how they personally are harmed. Now, this happens in a lot of court cases. If you want to go ahead and file a case, you got to show how this affects you. You can't just file it because you don't like it. How are you personally affected by this? The complaint does not include the facts showing the plaintiff's right to vote has been denied. They have been subject to discrimination or inequitable treatment or denied opportunities when compared to another group, nor that their rights as a citizen has been subordinated merely because of their father's country of origin, the judge wrote. So, okay. That's just one of many places, though, that would like to have illegals vote, but not just in, I mean, there's several places that want to do it in local elections, not just Washington, D.C. But as you know, there's other places that want to do it in national elections as well. All right, so next one. And I appreciate what I'm about to read to you here. Mark Zuckerberg, Meta CEO, Facebook. I'm going to have so much fun with this. He just bought a new yacht. It is a $300 million yacht, and I'm looking at it right now. It is massive and magnificent. The billionaire, Meta Platform, again, Facebook and so on, he purchased the 287-foot vessel with a launch pad, by the way, for boats and helicopters. Fox Business reached out to Meta Platform, Zuckerberg's personal comments about the vessel. Okay. He's going to cruise out of Fort Lauderdale, the Sunshine State, Florida. Okay. Hey, Zucker. I'm really impressed and I'm so happy for your success. What I want to know is, what about climate change? I want to know. What about climate change? Well, no, he wants to fight climate change, and yet look at he buys this big sucker. Okay. Greg is on the phone from Laramie. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Glenn, how you doing?
Good, sir.
I want to get that right, that Judy is advocating for a military coup in the United States,
absolutely,
right?
Yes, she is, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, here's what gets me about, and I do, personally, I know Judy, and I do like her, but just so Judy knows and other people like her, you can't get people to show up to vote out a city council member. How are you going to form a military to overthrow the country?
Yeah, I'm just wondering that myself.
Yeah.
Just kind of, and with the Coy Griffin thing, I mean, what the Supreme Court basically said was, sorry, you can't adjudicate Donald Trump as an insurrectionist, but in our own state, we can adjudicate you as an insurrectionist in our own state. That's right. The way I interpret the Supreme Court. So
yeah, okay.
He definitely was an insurrectionist, and Coy Griffin not serving will be very good for Colorado, in my opinion. Of course.
All
okay.
Right. Yep.
And I'll just say this. Chick-fil-A yesterday opening up at University of Wyoming.
Oh, that's right.
It was really good.
Thank you for reminding me. I have to get to that story, Greg. And the reason why is, some years ago, there was a group of people, and we're talking extreme leftists, really, really leftists, who wanted to boycott Chick-fil-A, and the reason was nonsense. And I had such a good time lampooning them. So that Chick-fil-A opening up, is it in UW? At UW?
Yeah, again, the Panda is right next to the Panda. The Panda used to be the place, but yesterday it was overrun.
Okay, I believe it.
And they did a really good job.
Yeah.
And yes, I do boycott them on Sunday. Every Sunday I refuse to go.
There we go.
To Chick-fil-A.
All right. Hey, Greg, have a great weekend.
Right.
I appreciate it. Micah is in Cheyenne about college credits. Hi, Micah.
Hi. Well, I listened to your exchange yesterday with the gentleman about the education stuff in colleges, and I'll have to say, for as much as I want to say that I'm more maybe of a moderate, but leaning towards the right, just if it weren't for some of the elective courses in college when I went, and, you know, I went for a year right after high school.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, my God, I am so sick of school. I could just fit. So I just didn't go until I was in my 40s. And then I went back to get my degree. And, you know, it's amazing the perception that you have of places when you're not actually physically there yourself. Because I had a very negative attitude towards going to college, but I did want that degree because I wanted to be able to get a degree to make myself look like I knew what I was talking about for a book that I've had in mind to write for years.
Okay.
But when I went back on campus, and, you know, to me, it just seemed very liberal and very, oh, my God, I mean, it was pulling teeth getting me to go back.
Right.
But, you know, I took some of those elective courses, and I am so glad that I did because it opened up my thinking even that much more to courses that otherwise I would have never known anything about them. You know, and were they kind of piddly, and did they help me in my career? No. But what they did help me with was just everyday living, things that I would not think about if I had not taken those courses, and just kind of have it a little bit of something in my subconscious.
Yeah.
So I can't really degrade everything that people talk about, but I will say that if people are going to bitch about all of this stuff, I wish that they would physically go back. Because I remember even in elementary school when we hit the 6th grade and all the girls had to go to, you know, sex class or whatever, you know, the thing was. The girls had to go to their classes, the boys had to go to theirs. And I'll tell you, that was a godsend for so many kids because all of that stuff was not talked about at home.
Right.
And, you know, now when I think back on it, I feel so badly for previous generations that didn't have things like that because everybody lived in a world of ignorance. And, you know, it's not that if you go and you expose yourself to something different that you're going to become some great big radical over it. But I think that you get a little more sense of peace in knowing the variety of people that are out there. And everybody is not exactly like me. And it doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad.
Okay.
So I think people should be exposed to things. And this is a free country. And then we make a choice as to how we want to combine our thinking and take that to the polls when we go to vote.
The only thing I didn't like about elective courses when I started in college is you have to take these many elective courses. And I stopped and said, wait a minute. If they're elective, why do I have to take them? Well, you have to. But they're elective. Doesn't that mean I don't have to? No, you have to. And that's what got me, that I had to. I have learned so much more. I appreciate people who want to go to college to learn something, especially in today's computer age. Man, I have learned so much because I'm intensely curious and I never stop learning. And I didn't have to go to college to that. I just don't like when someone goes to get a specific degree, that degree is upcharged on them by a lot of money because they have to take electives.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think if you have tons of electives.
Yeah.
And I think that is where people should come at it.
Right.
Because I do think that there should be some elective courses. You know, some people, I remember even when I first went to college, my father was looking over my shoulder, you know, as to what I was going to sign up for. Even for my elective, he was going to have control over that.
Right. Yeah.
And it was so nice going back to college as an adult, as a free person, and I could pick what electives I wanted.
Right.
But, you know, I think they should limit it to like maybe one elective a semester, because I will have to say, when you're really focused on what you do want to go after, you get so bottled up and crammed up, you know, in trying to really make it in those courses that you don't give yourself a break.
Right.
And for me, the elective courses were things that I was just curious about.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't have to excel in them, and I knew that it was probably an easy grade, you know, so that was fine. But, you know, it was actually good to kind of have that break from what I was really, really studying hard on, and then go to something that in my mind was something kind of frivolous.
Uh-huh.
And I practice that now throughout life. When I feel myself getting so bottled up and I can identify what it is, I go and I do something totally childish.
Totally different. Yeah,
or,
well,
you know, something
childish
new,
especially.
something just to divert my attention.
Gotta run. Thank you, Micah.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming, weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
9:24 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Back to the phones we go. Cody in Carpenter's been hanging on. What you got for me, Cody?
Good morning, Glenn. Hey, boy, I appreciate what Micah had to say, and you know, she's entitled to her opinion, but I strongly disagree with her. You know, I found those elective classes nothing but brainwashing sessions. You know, that, you know, I just still gets my dander up thinking back about it. How?
What kind of classes did you take? What kind of classes did you take?
Well, I was an engineering major, you know, and so then they had all of these electives that you had to take. One of them, which was marriage and interpersonal relationships. So it was this. There was no test, no homework, no nothing. It was all based on how much you participated. So you had to sit in this round table discussion with like 50 other people, and every week there was a different subject that had to be discussed. You know, so one of them was you know, straight marriages, and one of them was gay marriages, and one of them was gay sex, and one of them was lesbian sex, and you had to participate in this whole thing. You know, I mean, it was just nauseating. I mean, they talk about free thinking and expanding your mind, but go ahead and disagree with them and see how far that gets you.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I didn't see anything that promoted anything American or patriotism or freedom or conservatism or Christianity. All I experienced at Laramie when I was there in the late 90s, early 2000s was pushing a liberal agenda, brainwashing you, telling you that if you have a degree, now you are now a superior citizen because you have an open mind and you're better than people that don't have degrees. I mean, you know, the middle class, white, blue collar working family was scum, but if you're a purple-haired transgender atheist freak, then you're somehow more valuable. I don't know. I just still angry about it if you can't tell. So.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of came across that maybe you were.
Anyway, my kids will not be going to the University of Wyoming, and you know, if when they go to a college, it's going to be someplace that has some values that back up my values.
Okay.
So, anyway, have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Cody. Have a great weekend. So on that note, I'm not against college, and I'm not against if you want to take elective courses. I don't think elective courses should be mandatory. I mean, they're expensive. So college is expensive as it is. Let me take the courses. I'm going to pick a career. Let me take the courses that guide me to that career. If I have time and money and I want to take some electives, that's okay. But, you know, especially with today's technology, you've always been able to learn whatever you want on your own. With today's technology, in fact, many times, I tell you, part of what I do when I wake up on a Saturday morning, at the same time I do every day of the week, which is about 1:30 a.m. is when I get up. I know some of you are going, that's the schedule I keep. And I spend time reading. And there's YouTube channels out there with some college professors and astronomers and physicists and all sorts of other things that I like to study. And I get to learn directly from them because these really intelligent people with incredible life stories and have accomplished a lot are doing videos on, well, what they know. So then I came across this story. You don't need to go to college to find your dream job, degree-free entrepreneur says. And Wall Street Journal poll found 56% of all Americans viewed getting a college degree as a bad investment. Which college has made it, especially when government got involved in college, they made it a bad investment. Judy wants to clarify, Glenn, I'm supporting the process of arresting the lawbreakers by military since the Department of Justice has been taken over. Ah, okay. So you're not calling for an armed, rise up from the people, but arresting people who have been lawbreakers. Got it. Okay, so Judy's explaining herself. I got news coming up. Now, I do have a couple of other things I'm going to talk about here, but you can interrupt me like everybody else. That's what Friday's all about. So 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. I got local news, update on your weather forecast coming up. And then you and I get back into it again for another nice segment here. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Or do what these other people are doing, like Jolly Rancher and Douglas. Send me text messages by downloading the Wake Up Wyoming app and using the chat mode.
Monday.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Make your voice heard at 888-97-WOODS. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but I'm just happy to be here.
Doing a little bit of house cleaning here as we get to the end of the program. You can interrupt me, 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. Oh, Miss Mary was getting all sorts of work done, and then somebody brought in a puppy. Well, she's not getting anything else done the rest of the day. Real quick, the Chick-fil-A story, which I thought was really interesting. So Glenn Darrow, no relation, was thrilled to see a Chick-fil-A open in Laramie Thursday. It's right there at UW. Chick-fil-A is, if he left there, he would have to go all the way to Cheyenne to go to the nearest Chick-fil-A. Okay, so the reason I thought the story was interesting, some years ago, the owner of Chick-fil-A, well, let me back up to where the owner of Chick-fil-A came from. He was an orphan, grew up in an orphanage. As he got into adulthood, he got a job working for Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Told the Colonel at some point, I have my own idea, and explained his idea for his own kind of restaurant. And the Colonel encouraged him to do it. And so he did and started Chick-fil-A. Now, being a very religious man, the gentleman who started Chick-fil-A didn't open on Sundays, but he just kept growing the company. And it became one of the most successful companies in America, right? Now, the last I heard, it was the third largest fast food chain in the nation, the last I heard. Now, when he got really old, he had spent a lot of money, since he was so rich, on orphanages. So people who grew up in orphanages did not have to go through what he went through. All right. But again, very religious man. So he's getting really old now. He's going to turn the store over to people who can, well, take him from where he left off when he dies, which he knew he didn't have long left because he was really old. He was being interviewed. And during the course of the interview, whoever the reporter was asked him, so what do you think about same-sex marriage? Which I don't know what that has to do with Chick-fil-A, and he answered, well, Bible shows me that it's not God's will. And that's it. That's all he said. Because of that, there was these leftists who started to boycott Chick-fil-A. And if you look, they even try to say to this day that Chick-fil-A donates money to radical right-wing causes. No. They donate to church and civic groups that do good works in the community. And as far as his personal opinion on same-sex marriage, a Chick-fil-A restaurant has never done anything ever to harm anybody. That was the owner's personal opinion based on his religious beliefs. That was it. But you're supposed to be boycotting Chick-fil-A. But Chick-fil-A has gotten so popular, so incredibly popular. Again, last I heard, third largest fast food chain in America. And now one is open at UW. I don't know. Do the students there, the liberal students, know that they're supposed to be boycotting it? There's a Chick-fil-A song, you know. Perfectly describes it.
Chick-fil-A. I could eat there 7 times a day, where the people laugh and children play. Oh, I'm in love with Chick-fil-A. Suddenly, I need waffle fries in front of me, with some nuggets and a large sweet tea. Oh, Chick-fil-A, you set me free. Kids, get in the van so we can go there today. But their stores are closed, oh I know, 'cause it's Sunday. Chick-fil-A. What a dirty, rotten trick to play. Now I have to settle for Subway. Oh, I'm in love with Chick-fil-A.
See? Like I said,
Chick-fil-A.
Perfectly describes going to a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And again, you're supposed to this day, you're supposed to be boycotting them. I wonder if the liberal students at UW even know that.
It's happened to all of us. As soon as you wake up, you're hit by that deep, intense craving. So you jump in your car and you drive to the nearest Chick-fil-A only to realize it's Sunday. For the rest of the day, you struggle to cope with the symptoms of irritability, anger, and depression as you try to curb those cravings with inferior chicken and fries. Now there's relief. Introducing Chick-A-Derm, the patch that's guaranteed to curb your Chick-fil-A cravings for 24 hours every Sunday. Just one patch is equivalent to 1 chicken sandwich or an 8-count of nuggets. Just peel, stick, and say goodbye to those pesky chicken cravings. Look, now I'm wearing a party tray. And for even stronger relief, Chick-A-Derm patches are compatible with those extra sauce packets you have lying around.
Chick-A-Derm is available over the counter at most retailers, even the heathen ones that stay open on Sundays.
I think I'll survive till Monday. Thanks, Chick-A-Derm.
My pleasure. Need more control over your cravings? Try new Chick-A-Ret Gov. Available fried or grilled.
Solid, respectable Republican business. That's what makes America, Harley.
Our folks were Democrats, John.
Yeah, and look where it got you. A lifetime on the range and sweating in the summer and freezing in the winter and sleeping on the ground and fighting the wolves and the rattlesnakes. No, Harley. There can't be a finer calling in the whole world than being a Republican businessman.
I don't like to dispute you, Don, but didn't you always vote Democratic?
Well, that was when I didn't know anybody. Harley, I want you to do me a favor. You don't tell anybody here in Cheyenne I ever voted Democratic. You'll do that for me, won't you?
If you say so.
Thank you.
John, you don't mind if I still vote Democratic, do you?
Just so long as you're not seen with me when you do.
The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
9:49 the time. Wake Up Wyoming, trying to get a hold of Frank Gambino, who's on the road covering sports, and not surprising, sometimes he gets out of range or gets busy, but he's got a lot going on this weekend. WyoPreps is where you keep up with everything that he's covering in high school sports in Wyoming.
Who remembers playing sports when they were a kid? Like T-ball, soccer, raffle balls, if you gotta remember this stuff? Here's the thing. Now that I have kids in the sports and doing this stuff, I've noticed something. Sports, they change for kids. Yeah, we kept score, which is completely unheard of now, right? Because you don't want to hurt the kids' feelings if they lose, right? Because everyone's a winner, right, guys? That's real life, isn't it? No, I've been to Walmart. We're not all winners out there, guys. All right? We're not all winners. All I'm saying is we need to teach our kids what it feels like to lose so they know what it feels like to win and work for it. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Yeah. And get after a little bit. But I'm not going to get on a whole pedestal about this issue because we got bigger problems with kids' sports. The treats. You guys remember the treat parent at the end of the game? Yeah. The treats. In the 80s, we got awesome treats, man. We got like Mountain Dew or Surge. You guys remember Surge? Yeah, it wasn't Surge, it was Jolt Cola, 5 tons of caffeine, right? You get that stuff, your kid would be like, wow! 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 Mow the lawn, drive the car, clean it. You got some sort of cupcake with it. Nothing healthy. It was great. Those were the treats. But you can't get away with treats like that now, can you? Something magically in the last few years called gluten came out. Ruined everything. Gluten issues? Are you kidding me? We didn't have gluten issues in the 80s. We just dealt with the diarrhea. You know what I mean?
Off we go. I think this is Frank Gambino on the phone. Frank?
It is. I hear.
Okay.
In State Park.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So he's alive out there, ladies and gentlemen. Just go with sports.
All righty. The women's college basketball. The Wyoming Cowgirls will play their second round game in the WNIT on Sunday afternoon in Laramie at 1 p.m. taking on Texas San Antonio. USTA beat Northern Colorado in Greeley last night, 80-62, and UW comes into Sunday's game with a record of 16-14. At the men's NCAA basketball tournament, the Mountain West Conference had 2 teams eliminated yesterday. Colorado State scored a measly 11 points in the first half in their 56-44 loss to Texas. Nevada blew a 17-point lead and lost to Dayton 63-60. An added bonus for Wyoming Cowboy fans, BYU, a 6-seed loss to Duquesne 71-67. And the big upset yesterday, Kentucky, a 3-seed loss to 14-seeded Oakland 82-76. Drake lost to Washington State 66-61. For the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team, they have lost 3 players to the transfer portal. 2 of them were starters. Guard Brendan Wenzel leaving Laramie averaged 12 points a game this past season. The other starter, 6'10" forward Caden Polley, averaged 5 points and 4 rebounds per game. High school basketball, Joe Sawyer of Cheyenne Central named the Gatorade Player of the Year in Wyoming. He averaged 15 points and 5 rebounds per game. And Central won the 4A state championship with a record of 25-3. Girls high school soccer, Kelly Walsh playing in that Southern Coast tournament in Foley, Alabama. They played Norman, Oklahoma to a 1-1 tie yesterday. Lady Trojans will play Broken Arrow, Oklahoma this afternoon in that tournament. Also in girls soccer today, and the tournament will be at Riverton. Campbell County will visit Laramie. Thunder Basin will be at Cheyenne East. Sheridan will go to Cheyenne South. In boys prep soccer, Kelly Walsh is in that Southern Coast tournament. They lost to Grissom, Alabama yesterday, 1-0. They will play Christian Brothers, Tennessee today. Also in boys soccer, Natrona at Riverton. Cheyenne East goes to Thunder Basin. South on the road at Sheridan. And Laramie will be on the road at Campbell County and Gillette. Girls high school softball, Wheatland beat Cheyenne South in a doubleheader yesterday, 11-1 and 19-5. Today, Laramie will be at Wheatland. Green River and Casper will play Kelly Walsh. Rock Springs and Casper to take on Natrona. Thunder Basin and Cheyenne to meet Central. And Campbell County and Cheyenne to take on East. And that's it in sports.
So, where are you going again?
I'm going to Worland, Wyoming for the Pinnacle Cup soccer tournament.
Yeah, okay.
For 3A school.
Okay, so that happened, and it goes up on Wild Preps, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah. So it was kind of foggy leaving Casper. West of Casper was really, really foggy.
Okay.
And then here it's beautiful. It's just
wow.
Nice blue sky, blue water here, Boise. Nice.
Just
really nice.
Okay,
I'm going to enter the Wind River Canyon.
Oh, wow. One of my favorite drives in Wyoming. I have stayed, when you enter the canyon, when you look to the first park on the left, there's those cabins down there. I've stayed in one of those.
I just passed it.
Yeah, I've stayed in those. They're really nice. I think it's absolutely worth it. Hey, go soak yourself in the hot springs while you're at it.
I can do that.
All right. Have a great weekend, Frank.
Bye.
Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local update on the weather forecast. Watch out for Sunday, Monday weather, especially if you're in Wyoming. If you're east of Wyoming, batten down the hatches. Wake up, Wyoming. Have a great weekend.